virtually. Jackie, if you would call roll, please.
Mayor Winfield,
Here.
Mayor Murphy,
Here.
Mayor Valenzuela, General Maxwell,
Here.
Mayor Post,
Here.
Mayor Romero,
Here.
and Supervisor Hines.
Present.
Supervisor Hines, I believe, has joined us virtually.
And he's on mute, it looks like.
Okay. All right. So Board Member Hines, you're on mute, but we see you. Thank you for joining us. If you'd please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 2 of the agenda is call to audience, and Mr. Ledford will lead us on that agenda item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Speakers are limited to a 3-minute oral presentation and may submit written comments of any length for the board's files. Calls to the audience is limited to 30 minutes. Individual board members may respond to criticisms made by those individuals who have addressed the board. However, the board will not discuss or take action on a matter raised during a call to the audience that is not already on the agenda. First up today, we have Lisa Haggins. And Lisa, please start your comment by stating your name for the record. After that, you will have 3 minutes to address the RTA board. At the 2-minute mark, I'll politely cut in and request that you wrap up your comments. You may now proceed with your comment.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Lisa Haggins.
Oh, sorry, one second. There we go.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name's Lisa Haggins, and I'm the Executive Director of Arizona Transportation Builders Association. I'm also a proud 16-year Pima County resident. I live in the town of Sahuarita, and I work in Tucson, so I know the value that real good transportation system makes. We have come so far in the last few weeks, and now we're on the verge of fully passing a 20-year RTA Next plan. This plan provides certainty and stability to everybody in Pima County. Achieving this level of progress seemed unimaginable just 6 months ago, and we could not be more grateful for the tireless work the RTA board, the TMC committee, and all the staff have done on this. To you all, I say thank you for being selfless. You put the benefits of the whole region at the forefront of everything and not just your city or your district. That means a lot. RTA Executive Director Mike Ortega and General Ted Maxwell, you have persistently driven consensus and compromise to bring us all to a place where the vote is no longer a hope, but now a reality. We know this plan serves our beautiful region. Thank you. Safety, transit, bike lanes, and wildlife linkages are so important, and so is a strong roadway system. This plan will allow us to welcome new businesses and encourage our young adults when they graduate from high school to stay here in Pima County and not move out of the county or the state for jobs. Today's vote represents years of work and outreach by the RTA board and staff, countless public meetings, town halls, and listening sessions, which have all helped RTA board shape a plan that represents the best for all of us. Should the board today vote to send RTA next to for a March election, the community leaders know that we'll be the ones out there helping to spread the word to make sure that everyone in Southern Arizona and Pima County gets the message of how this can help us all. We want to elevate the conversation and move this forward. We want to ask you to put the plan on the March ballot as it's the best thing for the region, for all of our districts, all of our places, and all of our citizens. Let's move our economy forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Next up, we have Christy Street.
Hello, thanks. Chair Winfield, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Christy Street. I'm a native Arizonan, and after graduating college, I made the conscious choice to make Tucson my home. In the 30 years since, I've owned and led small businesses that greatly depend on effective regional planning. Today in my work with the Southern Arizona Leadership Council, I represent the voices of similar leaders and entrepreneurs who are all in with their commitment to Southern Arizona. So first, let me begin with gratitude. Together, this board has done what I can only describe as the ultimate group project. And critical to the success of any group project is every member doing their share of the work. Each of you as our representatives in local, tribal, and state jurisdictions has done an incredible job shouldering the responsibilities and contributing fairly, even in the face of setbacks and obstacles. Let's be honest, that alone deserves an A for effort. Way back in 2018, your RTA board colleagues kicked off the continuation plan development phase of RTA Next. And while at that time, no one fully anticipated that it would require more than 6 years to arrive at the finish line, it is important to recognize today's pivotal moment. From citizen-led advisory and accountability committees to the expertise of the municipal staff driving the technical management committee and all the working groups and subcommittees and feedback forums in between, thousands of hours of public input, technical review, and tough conversations have gone into this plan. You've listened, you've debated, you've reshaped and refined, and the community has essentially graded the rough drafts, giving you the feedback, and yes, even added some red ink. Now here you are with the final project in hand. And just like every student who has ever stared at the clock before a deadline, you face the same choice. Do you turn it in, or do you keep debating and risk getting an incomplete? Today is not about second-guessing the process. Today is about trusting the work, trusting the public that shaped it, and trusting yourselves as a regional team. Honor the voices of hundreds of voices and thousands of hours at this final deadline. They expect that you will come together and ensure our region does not fall behind. 6 years, one plan, one choice left. You have carried this project forward. Now the only thing left to do is to hand it in. Put it on the ballot. Let the voters, our neighbors, and our community decide if this is the future we want. To everyone who has put time, sweat, and passion into this plan, thank you for your leadership. Now let's turn it in. Thanks.
Thank you, Speaker. Next up, we have J.J. Lamb.
Dear RTA Next Board of Directors, my name is JJ Lamb, and I want to start out by saying thank you for the plan that you've worked so hard to bring together. I have the privilege of serving the Greater Vail and Corona de Tucson area as a president of Vail Preservation Society. I'm a third-generation Tucsonan, and in 1971, as a teenager, I helped my grandparents build their retirement home in the Empire Mountains. My husband and I raised our family in Vail and continue to call it home. I want to express my sincere appreciation for the board's thoughtful consideration of projects in the Southeast, especially as related to Project 17 in the vicinity of Colossal Cave Road, I-10 to Camino Loma Alta, and Project 18, Marianne Cleveland Way, Houghton Road to Colossal Cave Road. I want to express my respect for the difficult decisions and work that you do as you consider needs throughout the incorporated and unincorporated Pima County. The Southeast RTA Next projects will go a long way towards helping the extremely strained transportation infrastructure catch up with the needs of current and planned growth. The needs are real and urgent. We appreciate the board's building in flexibility for the planning and design phases of Projects 17 and 18 to possibly occur during Period 1. Thank you very much. The 2016 study, which I have here, Older, Smaller, Better in Tucson, that was funded by the National Trust for Historic Preservation in 2016, concluded that older, smaller historic buildings foster a strong sense of community, build a sense of place, and influence economic vitality. Vail is one of 10 significant historic communities listed in the Sonoran Desert Conservation Plan. Growth has been a constant for a bit over 20 years and will continue for the foreseeable future. Your amendments and the flexibility you are building into Projects 18 and especially into Project 17 in the vicinity of Colossal Cave Road will ensure that the Greater Vail area will benefit from the older, smaller, better path of livability and prosperity that will
Pardon
meet
the
the
interruption. You have 1 minute remaining.
Okay, meet the expectations of the families and businesses that grow eastward from Tucson. Building and planning that will preserve Vail's historic 1908 Old Vail Post Office and 1935 Shrine of Santa Rita, both listed on the National Register, will contribute to making Vail in the Southeast a great place to call home in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Speaker. Next up, we have David Godlewski.
Good afternoon, Chairman Winfield, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. David Godlewski, President and CEO of the Southern Arizona Home Builders Association. You're going to find my comments aren't as well thought through or as eloquent as our previous speakers, but I think they did a fantastic job about summarizing where we've been, where we're at, and the issue that we have before us today. I would agree. I think, looking back even a few weeks ago, I think there was a lot of doubt, that I had. I know members of the audience and certainly those of you around the table had, but I think it just shows that we can do a lot of great work as a region. And I think, I heard it said, when we're cramming for a test, sometimes we do our best work. And I think this is a great example of how we all rolled up our sleeves, got to work, got a great plan put in place. And I think it's really critical as we're looking forward to the future, how significant regional infrastructure investment is going to be to the success of this community. And this is a big part of ensuring that success. And so I'd certainly encourage you to support the plan that you have before you, to refer it to the voters next March. And again, great work. And thank you for the opportunity to address you today.
I think
Thank
that
you.
was equally eloquent, David.
All right, thank you, Speaker. Mr. Chair, there are no more speakers at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Ledford, and thank you.
Chairman.
Thank you, speakers.
Mr. Chairman, we do have two letters that were submitted. I wanted to bring them to your attention. One was from John Caruth. He's the Vail School District, Unified School District Superintendent, and also James Tucker, the Rincon Valley Fire Chief. He spoke at the last meeting. I want to make sure you have copies of that in your emails because we just got one this morning. That's all, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega. Board members, do you have copies of those two letters that were just, okay, great. Again, thank you, speakers. Thank you, Mr. Ledford. We'll close call to audience and go to item 3 of the agenda, which is consideration of RTA next plan. So on August 15th, 2025, the RTA board approved staff to deliver the RTA next plan, inclusive of a 20-year plan and 20-year half-cent sales tax to Pima County to prepare for a March 2026 election and public vote. Since this time, staff have worked to finalize the plan with some minor revisions requested by the board on August 15th. In addition, the plan contains other minor revisions incorporating feedback from the Technical Management Committee and the Regional Transportation Authority staff. Staff have also updated the strategic outreach plan for initial review. With that, I'll turn this item over to Mr. Ortega.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. So I won't go over the changes from August 15th. I think the memorandums that you've received, the plan summary goes into a fair amount of detail, not only in terms of the actual changes and the language, but also the thoughts behind them. I do want to bring your attention to a couple of things, though, that I think are worthy of conversation. First is you all had asked me to develop flexibility in the plan. And that had two components to it. One of them was the financial or the fiscal piece, which is what happens if more money comes in and how do we expend that. So I have added a line item in each of the sub-elements. I've called it contingency. What I think I'd suggest after having done that, there was question about contingency might have different meanings to different folks. So what I'd like to do is recommend to you to consider potential additional revenue. So instead of the word contingency, I'd like to change that to potential additional revenue. So anywhere you see contingency, we'll do that. Simplistically, the thought there was to provide capacity because we are focused on the pessimistic level. We believe that we're going to see excess revenues, if you will, come in. And I want to make sure that we've built in a plan for how those dollars would be distributed and how those dollars would be able to be expended within the plan. Now, the details of that will be as a part of the administrative code conversations and those policy discussions that will be in front of this board in the future. I do want to point one thing out. You had heard from speakers at the last meeting, this meeting, and in some of the correspondence to look at moving projects up. Everybody wants their projects in the first period. I understand that. We are already oversubscribed in periods 1 and 2, which makes me nervous to do any other additions, if you will, without making changes to move things back. So one of the things that I've suggested is let's look at the potential additional revenue in the administration and debt service category. And let's look at that first, only so that it gives the board in about 3 to 4 years the flexibility of then bonding and potentially moving some of those projects, but also addressing a potential, we'll call it a cash flow conversation or concern at that time. I'm not recommending that right this minute. I think that it would be difficult to plan that out. However, knowing that, my suggestion would be that the first tranche, if you will, that first excess revenue or additional revenue would go towards the administration, that debt service. We'll leave it there. The board can then make a decision going forward. The second piece on the flexibility language was exactly that in terms of revisions to the scopes because of unforeseen conditions that the board might face down the road. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I wanted to point that out because I think it's important. It was not included in the 2006 RTA language, but it's included here. And I wanted to make sure that you saw that and that you realized that was based on the conversations. I did get a read from our attorney that language could work. And so that's included as a part of the plan. I believe that's note number 2. The last thing I'll point out is there's a lot of conversation about transit, and I want to talk a little bit about that. The budget for transit out of the TPT did not change. All we did is we added the contingency, which is now going to be the potential additional revenue line, which was 50 million. And I showed in the plan the maintenance of effort monies, and those are about 7.9 million a year. So when you take all of that, it's actually closer to $954 million for transit. But I wanted to show that in terms of how it's broken down. It did not change the TPT allocation to that. Mr. Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions. I just wanted to give you those are a couple of highlights that I think are important and that had been a lot of the conversation leading up to today. So the staff and I are available to answer questions.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Ortega. Open it up to the board. Board Member Maxwell and then Board Member Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Mr. Ortega, appreciate that concept. And, we've talked a little bit about the extra money and the flexibility that provides and how we can do it. How did you come up with $250 million?
So if you look at the projections, a very conservative baseline projection is about 254 million. Again, we didn't spend a lot of time because, again, this is a target. And so I didn't want to say to you, oh, let's use that number because that's the baseline. I would want to spend a lot more time before I would be able to make that kind of a recommendation. But because we are building in capacity, that just seemed like a reason. I could defend that, if you will. If you challenge me, I could defend that going through a very quick and dirty analysis of the baseline, I could say to you, it's about, which has about a 50-50 chance of accomplishing that.
And I'm going to challenge you on that decision, but I'd have a suggestion for the board. One thing, 250 was just kind of a number. What is an actual number is the baseline number itself. And the increase instead of 250 would be to 352. The plan remains 2.67. Nothing changes. It's still got the priority of the board that we plan for pessimistic. But as you know, when we were planning for pessimistic, we quite often talked about what would we do with that money between pessimistic and baseline. And I do like the terminology, by the way. That change is great because it's just a potential additional revenue. What we've learned in the last couple months of some insight from our legal counsel is that at some point, if we're going to overspend because we've collected more, we have to go back to the voters. So it makes perfectly good sense to me to take that baseline number, add the 352 in this perspective. If we only reach the pessimistic like we did the last 20 years, guess what? We delivered what we've promised because the plan is pessimistic. But now we've also gone out and told the voters, if we receive more than the pessimistic, this is how, based on the additional potential or the potential additional revenue in there, we'd use it. So I just like sticking with the numbers of the economists one way or the other. So my recommendation to us as a board would be to go to that that baseline number for the potential additional revenue, because that's how we've been talking about that for almost 2 years.
Board Member Murphy and then Board Member Romero.
Just to clarify, before I go to my question, General, is it because if we lock in a larger number and it does come, it protects us from having to go back to the voters and use it? Because of that whole 10% rule before, or all the other things?
It does. As we know, there's a lot of protection inside of the state statute. So much, if you exceed by this much in this element or this much in another element or two of the three elements, you have to go back. It doesn't necessarily take that away because we've got the elements, but we've got by having that additional revenue already in there, they know we may spend
right
up to this much. But what it definitely does do is it tells them we've got a pessimistic plan here. So we won't face a situation where if the next 5 years are bleak and things aren't coming in, we're not going to be telling people your projects aren't getting done. You're not going to go back. This is what we promised you. And because it's listed in the manner it is, as contingency was, to me, the only contingency was it's not then because the costs and other issues with the projects themselves. That would be if the revenues weren't there. And that's the reason we made the decision in the first place to go pessimistic vice baseline. So whether it's 250, if we're going to put 250 in, I'd say let's take it to the baseline. That way it's supportable from the data we receive from the economists.
Right. Thanks. And my question is, I think part of the magic about what we've been working on is building in that flexibility and being proactive. And when I was reviewing the draft, when I came up to the arterial and collector roads, we have the language a little more tight, but only for poor or failing conditions. And I would love the ability to just have it listed as pavement rehabilitation for arterial and collector roads. And that way we can maybe be proactive and not wait till we get to a failing or poor road before we actually invest in it as it falls. Because I've learned over my years as the mayor, the cost, if you're doing a fog seal, it's X per mile. You start getting deeper and deeper into reconstruction, rehabilitation, it becomes much more expensive. So having the flexibility for the multiple jurisdictions to have that built in, I think would be positive. I know we're still shining a little bit. I was trying not to shine the apple too much at the very end, but I thought that might be one that we could consider for flexibility. Thanks.
Board Member Romero.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too wanted to address the assumptions of potential revenue. One of the sticking points, I would say, for mayor and council has been throughout the 6 years that I've participated in this process has been the fair return on investment to Tucsonans. And the getting Tucson residents and its taxpayers to fair return on investment meant for us 55% of the share of the RTA next. And so if we were to assume a $250 million potential additional revenue, it wouldn't get us to the baseline that mayor and council, by the way, unanimously supported last Tuesday, to the 55% that we had previously on August 15th, had those numbers present to us. And so, again, it is assumptions of excess revenue, of potential additional revenue. But if it were to stay, if we were as a board to decide to stay at the 250 million suggested by our executive director, then the city of Tucson would have to request that potential additional revenue be distributed at 80% coming to the city and 20% coming to the other jurisdictions. That's the only way that we would get the city of Tucson with a 55% share of the RTA next revenue. If we were to stay at the, or, vote on the $352 million of potential additional revenue, that would keep the city of Tucson at 55% of the share of RTA next dollars coming to us. So I did want to address this, Mr. Chair, because then we would have to vote on something. This is potential additional revenue, so it's kind of arguing over the possibility, right? But the possibility of being able to tap into those dollars for Tucsonans mean a fair return on investment. So I'd like to find a resolution for this and possibly vote on what we as a board want to do in terms of how we make the decision, for the future residents of Tucson.
So Mayor Valenzuela, let me just, if I'm understanding the board member Maxwell, you are recommending that the potential additional revenue go from 250 million to 350 million to follow the economists' projections for RTA next.
Mr. Chair, that is true. Remember, the thing we did pass it to come here has the 75-25 split for the city until you hit 55. So why I understand the concern of it only being at 250 now, it doesn't look as clean, I would say. It's still, that split continues until that 55% number would be reached. So I don't think you need to work it. I just do believe that if we're going to add back in funding to give us some flexibility, some more opportunities, I just use the numbers we have. And that way it goes to 352. I think that's probably going to alleviate some concern there as well. But it's here are the two numbers. And like we've talked about for several years, if we took the baseline, it's a flip of the coin. And that's why this board was really strong on, we want the plan to be based on the pessimistic view. And that's what we've built in.
Absolutely. So board member Romero, if the board agrees to go to the 350 million, it sounds like that then addresses your concern.
That'll just keep us where we were
Yeah.
before August 15th, and assures the residents of Tucson that we will get to a 55% share of the RTA next dollars. And so I really would like to make sure that we have a motion to solidify this move if possible. If we were to decide as a board, you know what, we will vote on a $250 million potential additional revenue, then I would request my colleagues vote for an 80-20 split, which would, at the end of 20 years, get the city of Tucson residents to the 55% of their share.
And I haven't forgotten you, Mayor Valenzuela, but just one follow-up question. So Mr. Ortega, in his memorandum to the board, he laid out the distribution of this potential additional revenue. I didn't hear any issues with how that's been allocated by the board members, at least to this point. And by increasing it to 350, obviously that distribution would change. And I would presume, Mr. Ortega, that it would be in ratio to what you've outlined here in some fashion, or do you have a recommendation to the board?
Mr. Chairman, I do, I thought this might come up. So I do, and here's the way I would suggest it at this point. And so we're talking 102 million. And so what I would suggest is that the debt service receive 10 of those.
So I'd go to 20 million?
That's correct. Now, to be honest, knowing the oversubscription of periods 1 and 2, you could twist my arm, we could go to 20 on that just to give us more flexibility. And I hadn't thought about that, at least I didn't write it down, but quite frankly, after knowing and hearing the interest that you have in moving projects up, we may need to debt finance in order to have that happen. So maybe instead of 10, maybe we go to 20, if you're okay with that. And then I would put 30 in the arterial and collector rehabilitation.
So that would go to 80,
That's correct. And then 52 in the roadway element.
so 160,
That's correct. 162.
62.
Yes, sir. And so again, in my memorandum, I talk about the risks associated with the roadway element. I think that would be at least my recommendation at this point for those additional dollars.
Uh,
Just to follow up on those numbers.
Okay, sure.
I think my question was answered.
Okay.
It was just a clarifying question. If we go to the baseline, 352, the percentages stay the same, 55, 45, but Tucson getting 75%? Am I understanding that correctly?
No, it would be 75% of those additional dollars going automatically to the city of Tucson until we reach a certain amount.
55%.
So it
And
would
when they
stay
hit
at
the 55%, then that ratio changes from 55 to 45. 55 going to Tucson, 45 distributed to among the other jurisdictions.
Perfect. Thank you.
But, and then, so Board Member Romero, you wanted a clarification on the numbers?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the numbers. The roadway corridor element would go up to 162 million. And then safety ADA active transportation element would remain the same,
That's correct.
25. And then arterial and collector would go up to 80.
Correct.
Our environmental element will receive 5 million. And then transit element 50, and then debt service would go up to 20.
30. Go up to 30. It'd go up by 20.
Oh, go up to 30 million.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's correct.
that's why I wanted to. All right. Thank you.
Board Member Maxwell?
Mr. Chair, I just want to emphasize a couple of things about it because we've kind of used, it will guarantee, it will make happen. The fact is those numbers are potential additional revenue. This is a situation we had, 2 years ago, we were talking about when a certain individual was the city manager at the time and proposed it, kind of said they were willing to take the risk. The city of Tucson's taken the risk. So I've got, I think we've got to remember there's no guarantees. What we've given is that we've given a plan based on the pessimistic view where the commitments are. That's why everything else is being listed as additional potential additional revenue. And I actually think it's a great way because we've talked about it a lot. How are we going to let the community know what's going to happen if the revenues do come in at the baseline or the expected? We've now just put that in here, but we've put it in a manner that we're not, nobody's going to go, well, this road, then that road, or vice versa. It leaves the flexibility. And realistically, we know a lot of the projects in periods 3 and 4, I'll be advocating not on this board for a continual review by this board to make those changes and go back to the voter when necessary, when we realize a project's not going to work. Because we learn things change, traffic patterns change, populations change, all that changes. We've got to be more effective next time through this next 20-year cycle. So when you're all still mayors 20 years from now,
Yeah.
I'll let you worry about it. But I just want to make sure everybody understands we're talking about the potential additional revenue. There's no guarantees that's coming. And we're not guaranteeing we're going to do anything with it.
Mr. Chair?
Board Member Romero. And before you go, just for the record, Board Member Jose has joined the meeting virtually.
Oh, thank you. Is there a possibility of making sure that we vote on what looks to be something that we're agreeing on? The going to the baseline of 352 million of potential additional revenue to be distributed at 75-25 until we reach the 55% for Tucson.
I've made a note of it. So if there's more discussion, or we can certainly put forth a motion and continue with discussion. So I'm fine doing that. Would you like to make a motion, Board Member Romero?
Absolutely. I'll make the motion that we, the RTA board assume potential additional revenue of 352 million and to keep the 75-25 split for the city of Tucson of any distribution of funds until the city of Tucson receives 55% of the percentage of all RTA next revenue. That was long.
Second.
Uh,
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we feel a need to include the distribution of those funds, 162 million for roadway corridor element, 25 for safety?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I would like to amend I know he seconded, but can we amend? Because I don't think you included the distribution.
It didn't only because it was already a long motion, but if you'd like to include any additional information on the motion, I would be amenable.
Okay, so I'd like to suggest that we include the distribution of the potential additional revenue as follows: roadway corridor element at 162 million, safety, ADA and active transportation element at 25 million, arterial and collector roads pavement rehabilitation element at 80 million, environmental element at 5 million, transit element at 50 million, and debt service, RTA and small business program administrative cost to 30 million. Is that agreeable?
Agreeable.
And with your motion, you're also approving the new 20-year RTA next plan as revised? Okay, so amenable?
Yep.
Mr. Ortega, is that?
That's perfect.
That work?
It works fine. I did have a couple of things that I wanted to point out. If you're going to call for the entire plan, we did find a couple of things that could bring clarity on the transit lines. Specifically line item 48, adding the word expanded and bus service hours. It would read expanded weekday, evening, weekend bus service hours and expanded paratransit service. Line item 50, the elimination of sun and sun. So there's two suns there, so take those out. So it reads express/shuttle fixed dial ride paratransit services. So it just brings some clarity there. And then line item 52, instead of expanded, it's general expansion of transit services region-wide, special South Tucson allocation. And then the contingency would also change just to show it as additional revenue, potential additional revenue, not contingency. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega. Does this motion that's on the table for this agenda item 3, consideration of the RTA next plan, does it also include any comments that the board may have about the ballot language, the draft ballot language that's been provided?
Mr. Chair, what I would suggest is that we did get a read actually just today that the Pima County elections folks do not need the ballot language for a little while yet. And so we will bring back some language to you for consideration in the future. We did give you a draft that's included in your packet, and we're still working out a few of those details, but we'll bring that back to you in the future.
So I believe our next, are we talking about the next scheduled RTA meeting in
September 25th, yes, sir.
All right, sounds good. Any more discussion on the motion that's on the table? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Board Member Hines and Board Member Jose, I'm not sure of your vote.
Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Just
Go ahead, Board Member Hines.
It sounded like we added a bunch of money to the plan after we just were shorted $1 billion. So I'm confused. Like what? But I'm also in an airport lounge, so maybe I just didn't hear well. Is that what happened?
I wouldn't. Mr. Ortega? You want to
Mr. Chairman, Board Member Hines, there was no money added to the actual plan. What the board did or is recommending is an allocation of potential additional revenue. So if revenue comes in above what is projected, there is a plan for how to deal with that. So the plan itself is still constrained at 2.67 billion. It's really a function of if additional revenues come in, it gives the board flexibility in the future.
Okay, That's the motion, or are we voting on the entire?
Well, the motion is to approve the 20-year RTA Next Plan as revised since the plan version approved by the RTA Board on August 15th. There was, in addition to that, this potential additional revenue was raised from 250 million to 352 million. Again, this is per the forecast, the economic forecast. Of that 252 million, it was also included in the motion that the city of Tucson will receive 75% of those potential additional revenues up until they reach their 55%. At which time it will shift from 75-25 to 55-45, 55 going to the city of Tucson, 45 going to the other jurisdictions. And then those potential additional revenues are then spread across 6 areas. And those are roadway corridor element at 162 million, safety, ADA, and active transportation element at 25, arterial collector roads, pavement rehabilitation at 80 million, environment element at 5, transit element at 50 million, debt service RTA small business program administration costs from 10 to 30 million. So that's the motion. The motion is essentially accepting the RTA plan with those minor revisions. RTA Next Plan, excuse me, and clarification.
Thank you for that. I will abstain from voting.
Okay, so and then Board Member Jose.
Thank you. Verlin Jose here. I would support this plan because I support regional solutions to transportation issues that benefit all of Southern Arizona. However, as I stated before, I remain concerned about the process that developed this plan without adequate transparency and community support. I will cast my vote as a yes to putting this plan on the ballot, with the understanding that leaders and staff are committed to engaging with the voters and working together to get the necessary buy-in. As I stated before, I think we need to do a lot of groundwork just to keep the public informed. And at the end of the day, it's going to be their vote. Therefore, my vote is a yes.
Thank you, Chairman Jose, for that clarification. And included in our packet was the RTA Next Strategic Communication Plan, which lays out, I think, your concern and the concern that we all have as board members, that this plan is communicated as clearly and as aggressively as possible to our communities, of which we all have a role in. So with that, the motion passes 7 with 1 abstention. Board Member Murphy.
And Chairman, just to add to that, we've had the business community, the transportation community be willing to also help in that communication and that marketing plan, because we have the RTA, what we can do or not do as staff members when you call for a vote, but also it's the PACs and such that really will come to the table. And I know they've been very supportive of not only the plan, but also helping with this communication and the marketing. So I just wanted to add that as well. Thank you.
Board Member Romero.
I know we've voted and it seems like we have a clear path ahead, which feels very, very satisfying. You don't even know how satisfying this feels. And the reason that I'm happy that we're moving forward with a plan, well-defined, going in March to the voters for a 20-year plan, is because I sat here for the past 6 years and it seemed to me sometimes that as a human that I am, I felt like pulling my hair out. And sometimes I felt as though I was talking to the wall or this table. And the reason that I and Tucson decided to stay at the table is to get to this day, to be able to have as much of a consensus as we can to present to the voters of Tucson the possibility of a more than $2.6 billion investment in our region. Because I have always felt as though public infrastructure investment leverages private investment. It's for the benefit of all of us that we are moving forward. And it was worth my pulling out my hair and kicking and screaming, and sometimes feeling as though I was not heard by anyone. And I'm glad we're here. This particular plan for the city of Tucson, I've discussed with our city manager, with our Department of Transportation and Mobility Director, with my colleagues on the council. We could have gotten to this plan sooner if it were not for obfuscation and delay tactics that were played at this table. But it goes to show you that persistence and being willing to pivot and move and having the most appropriate people at the table really can get the job done. And I know, Chairman Jose, I absolutely agree with you. I wish we would have had more of an opportunity of robust conversation with our residents. There have been a lot of conversation. I'm not going to say that there was none. There has been surveys. There were meetings of the Citizens Advisory Committee. I really deeply believe that the plan that we have in front of us is the best plan that we've come up with. And that it is with the intention and the spirit of really attending to the concerns that our Citizens Advisory Committee had brought to us before. Our city managers and our teams at all of our jurisdictions through the Technical Management Committee have reviewed it, have looked at it. They themselves have worked really hard to get to where we are. And even though the city of Tucson is really taking a huge risk in terms of where we're starting regarding the potential revenue that's coming in, that I think we're starting at, correct me if I'm wrong, 51.5% return on investment for the residents of Tucson. We do have a path to get to 55%, which is a much more fair and equitable investment based on what the citizens of Tucson contribute to the RTA. We do have funds for our transit system and transit investments. We have our continued investment in the bus, in the Sunlink streetcar, continued investment in our transit and paratransit. We have a new bus rapid transit system that Tucson wants to hopefully bring federal funds for to make it happen. We have funds for pavement preservation, or what are we calling it? Rehabilitation, which is something my colleagues on the mayor and council really wanted to see. We have good investments, and so I will support any effort to educate the community further, to bring them in, and to work in partnership with all the jurisdictions at this table so that we can have clear and transparent process and hopefully a successful election in March of 2026. With the partnership that the city of Tucson and the city of South Tucson have in terms of transit working together that will be getting us to a good place, I believe. So thank you so much for letting me add this to the conversation. And I'm looking forward to I know we have other pieces of the conversation to talk about, but it's a good place that we find ourselves in.
Board Member Maxwell, did you want to?
Just real quick, I just wanted to remind, this is a plan. I mean, that's the design, the build out, the road, every project in here will have to go through some more engagement at the municipalities that are involved in doing this. So to Chairman Jose's comment, I fully believe there's a lot of opportunities still left when it comes to the specifics of these programs, because we haven't gotten to the design, build, the execution phase. And we're not even done with the plan phase yet. We still have to go back and get the voters to approve it as well. So I look forward to for that increase. There will be lots of opportunity. I honestly believe this may have been with the amount of years we put into this, there may not have been more community and regional input on a regional plan in the state before. Because we've been doing this for a long time. There's been a ton of voices, but it's not over. And I appreciate everybody's vote and opinion on this board.
Board Member Murphy?
And just to reiterate, a lot of us were at the league annual meeting last week, and I went to the ADOT meeting. And I know the general has been, board member, has been promoting this for a long time, but they cover that between MAG and PAG, that's 80% of the voters in the state. And they rely on us for this funding. There is no cavalry coming. And if you're not part of MAG and PAG, the monies that are going to be distributed to these outlying areas are almost non-existent. I think it was 162 million in the whole. So you sort of, back to the adage, if it is to be, it's up to us, to us to do this. And it would almost be calamity if we didn't get this done, or we have to be accepting our roads and infrastructure and corridors are going to be this way for the next 20 years plus. Thanks.
Board Member Jose, you have a hand up. I don't know if that hand was up previously or if you're wanting to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman of the board, and to the board members, and thank you for your vote. Yes, I saw the information. I've heard the comment from the public. I just wanted to, I had to state that to my colleagues on the board there, so we don't lose track of that. And I do know that we still got a lot of time to do a lot of stuff, but let's not forget, the people that we all serve, the communities and the public. And yes, we have focus groups and all these different people that are a part of it. But again, that's why I mentioned what I said the last time. I said it again, and I'll probably say it again. So, and efforts of moving forward in unison. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Board Member Jose, Mr. Ortega.
Mr. Chairman, two things. One is I wanted to make sure Board Member Murphy mentioned a line item 42, which was the pavement rehabilitation for arterial and collector roads. And what I heard is that we will take out the last part of that sentence, which is in poor or failing condition. So that line item will now read pavement rehabilitation for arterial and collector roadways. That's what I heard. I wanted to make sure that was part of the motion and part of the direction. The second thing I wanted to mention is I don't plan to go over the outreach portion. I gave you that information for your edification, but there's also a little homework there. And I've learned never to ask you to tweak. So we won't be asking you to tweak that. But what I would look for is two parts to that. One is please look at the plan, and if you have suggestions or feedback, we're ready to implement. So we're starting that. As a matter of fact, I'll be in front of some of the town councils this week, and so I'm happy to start with that messaging. But the second part I think is as important. I know that you all have constituency groups. You all have groups that you're parts of. If you could let us know if there is a group that is not a traditional, one of the traditional folks that we'd reach out to, we're happy to include that. But we're really counting on you to let us know so that we can incorporate that, and we're happy to do that at any time. So I just wanted to make sure you were clear on that.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega. So just with that clarification, especially on that line item. Okay, Board Member Romero?
I think if it's not too much to ask, Mr. Ortega, I think for the benefit of Chairman Jose and the community, it might be a good idea to go over the outreach plan. I know that it's part of item 3. It would be great to go over just what you're thinking and to share with the community. You know that you have, let me see, it's a communications plan, the RTA Next Strategic Communications Plan. I don't know if you all prepared to give a presentation about it. I know we voted, but I think it would be good for Chairman Jose, myself and others, and then of course the community to know what we're thinking.
I mean, that would be fine. We'll give Mr. Ortega a few minutes, but just before we leave, so Mr. Ortega drew our attention to item 42. Board Member Murphy had brought this up about removing poor and failing condition. I think there's agreement with that, right? There's no disagreement. All right, we'll move on. Mr. Ortega, the communication plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what we'll do, I do have a staff member that will give you a high level. What we provided you is obviously the strategic communication plan, what we planned to use. It's a draft, so we'll take as much feedback as you all would like to offer. But we've also provided you the PowerPoint that we will use as we're making the presentation. One of the pieces that I'll draw your attention to is the pie chart. As a matter of fact, I was in front of the city of South Tucson. Thank you, Mayor Valenzuela, for the invitation. And I used that pie chart to explain the investment. I draw your attention to it. It's kind of a cool graphic, but I also draw your attention because it does not include the potential additional revenue. And I'm gonna say that every time we talk, because people might look at it and say, well, wait a minute, there's a disconnect. I don't think it's appropriate to include that potential additional revenue because it looks inflated in it, and that's not the intent. That's not the spirit and intent. So I wanted to make sure that you saw that and that you know that those numbers are the constrained plan at 2.67 billion. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Melanie Lawson, sitting at the end of the table here. She's one of our outreach administrators, and she will go over, again, really high level as to what the approach is. Melanie?
Sure. Thank you. So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'll cover some information about the presentation first and then.
Melanie, I'm not sure your mic is on, or maybe you need to pull it closer to you.
There we go. All right. So thank you. I'll cover some information on the presentation first. As Mr. Ortega mentioned, the intent was to show you kind of how we're talking to the public about the RTA Next plan. The materials include highlights. It's not the full presentation, but it's the highlights, and it provides an overview of the benefits of RTA and what it brings to the region. We convey the message to the public that it is a new tax, because I know that was a concern for some members, for another 20-year period, but we do reiterate that it is at no additional cost to you. So while the tax is new for another 20 years, voters will not see a tax increase. With regard to the timeline, we reiterate that the plan has been in development for 6 years with input from various committees, as you all have noted, with the voters having the ultimate say at the ballot. There is a slide in here that is new and not always part of the public presentation. It went over some of the feedback themes that we've seen. So while we have been engaging on RTA Next, there have also been a lot of other public touch points with regard to other plans. And the sources of the feedback are not necessarily specific to RTA Next, but the themes are consistent across all of those touch points with the public. So there was steady, strong demand for road pavement improvement. There was steady interest in providing increased transit services, more affordable and accessible options, expanding off-peak service, improving safety and cleanliness, and closing gaps to key destinations, and then a steady request for continued investment in bike and pedestrian infrastructure, and also protection of the wildlife linkages investment. The last slide is kind of the key takeaway from the presentation, and we conclude with the message that the RTA plan is, if approved, improvements would be made across the region for the next 20 years to benefit everyone, no matter where they live or work, and there's should be something for everyone in the plan. I'll move on to the strategic communication plan. So we will focus on presentations to organizations and stakeholder groups across the region. So as Mr. Ortega mentioned, if you have organizations that you want to be sure that we reach, please send us their information and we will connect with them. We've already been getting requests. We have presentations booked, even a couple out through January and February of 2026. We will also work with the public information officers across all jurisdictions. We had a kickoff meeting last week, and we will have regular meetings and check in as the plan progresses and as we get closer to that potential March date. We will also plan to be at some community events in each jurisdiction. We have a list identified, but please do let us know where you think we should be and we'll be there. We also will focus on hard-to-reach populations. We have materials that will be available in Spanish. We will have Spanish speakers at all of our in-person events. And the key point is that, again, we'll say yes pretty much to everything and all requests, and we will adapt as needed between now and March. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Murphy?
Just one suggestion, when I was looking through it, the one that resonates the most with me is the pie chart, obviously, that can be shared a lot. But if you could just maybe consider, because I'm thinking of the whole region and the audience, right? So when I see transit, I'm thinking like of a Green Valley person that probably isn't, if I see the word transit, I'm thinking, oh, I'm not taking the routes. But I am doing paratransit, I'm doing dial-a-ride. So maybe where you can, not to get too wordy, but to expand a little bit, you know, and the average person, what does roadway mean? You know, it could be parentheses, new corridor projects or whatever. But the transit one was the one that resonated with me because there's, and Mayor, you talked about it earlier, there's subcategories under there that benefit the whole region. So, because I know this will be probably shared more than any other slide. It's communicative as we can get. I think that's what would be helpful.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you very much. And we'll do our homework, Mr. Ortega. Okay, so we'll go to item 4, which is consideration of the revised 2006 RTA plan. So as a result of a substantial change to the 2006 Regional Transportation Plan, the RTA Board is required to ask the voters to consider a revised plan. Staff has proposed a revised 2006 plan that is incorporated into the RTA Next plan. And so we'll give this over to Mr. Ortega and then have a discussion.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this really isn't much of a discussion. This is a formality, if you will. A legal piece of this requires that the 06 plan be revised and amended, or I can't use that word. It's
Revised or amended.
Revised or amended. Thank you. I can use that word. I have to check. So keep in mind now, the one thing that I was not clear on last time when we met was how many projects would have to be rescoped. There was a question. I was hoping that Chairman Hernandez would be here. We did meet with the staff of the city of Tucson, and Chairman Hernandez came to an agreement that no scoping change is necessary on that plan, nor is there additional money that's necessary. So it doesn't need to be addressed as a part of this effort. So that was the one piece that was outstanding. So, Mr. Chairman, we would look for consideration of amending the 2006 plan.
Okay, but I'd like to make a motion. I move to approve the revised 2006 RTA Regional Transportation Plan as identified and incorporated into the RTA Next plan.
Second.
Seconded by Board Member Murphy. Any further discussion, questions? Board Member Romero?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. One of the reasons that my colleagues on the council and I are ready to support the RTA Next plan is because there is a clear path to delivering the first RTA projects to the community. And it does it with the remaining funds of what we're collecting right now and additional funds of the RTA Next plan. The other piece that we feel good about is that it will use only 5 years of regional funds and then open it up to additional jurisdictions to be able to tap into the regional funds for their additional projects besides RTA Next projects. And that is fair. And there will be an opportunity for all jurisdictions to be able to bring new projects that maybe are not listed in RTA Next. That is an important piece of the work that we all do in our jurisdiction. So I just wanted to add that for the benefit of the community to hear that RTA 1 projects will be delivered. There's a clear path and a clear plan, and that we can get absolutely on board on that with that.
Any other? I think that's been a shared interest by all the board members to bring 2006 RTA plan to completion. So it's been fully supported by all the board. So there's a motion on the table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? I believe the ayes have it. Let's see, there's 8-0. We'll go to item 5, which is consideration of a resolution adopting the RTA Next Plan, revising the 2006 plan, and requesting that the Pima County Board of Supervisors call an election. So this will be a discussion pursuant to ARS 48-4314 and 48-4309. The RTA Next Plan, the revised 2006 plan, and the transportation excise tax are subject to voter approval. To move these issues forward, the RTA Board must adopt a resolution asking the Pima County Board of Supervisors to call an election on them. Mr. Ortega.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Rick, I'm going to ask for that item to be put up. So we did find 2 things that needed to change. Was in technically the title, the name of the organization was referenced incorrectly. So we're going to make that change, and we'll put it up on the screen so you can see it. We called it the Pima County Regional Transportation Authority, and it actually is the Regional Transportation Authority of Pima County. That's the technical name. I'm sorry. Yes, it's true. And then go down to the next page, please. We did have a paragraph right there's good. We did have a paragraph where it referenced the advisory committees and their recommendation of the plan. After looking at it, I didn't feel entirely comfortable. Some of you had mentioned it to me as well, because the TMC didn't necessarily vote on it. They talked about it, but when we went back and looked, there wasn't explicit direction on this plan. And so what I thought we'd do is put in language that says the TMC worked and developed the plan, but I didn't want there to be any question about that recommendation. So that is the change on that. I wanted to point those out, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Board Member Murphy.
Quick question, and the things that we voted on today and kind of shined up a little, we don't have to worry about those being incorporated in there. Okay, thanks.
Mr. Chairman, only because it is referenced in that that item is, the plan is incorporated as Exhibit A. So with the plan that you all voted on already will be part of this resolution. Thank you.
Thanks.
So, I have a proposal in regards to the resolution for the board to consider. And I would suggest perhaps striking, striking what's in blue completely, because I personally believe that the following 2 paragraphs really speak to, so whereas the representatives of the jurisdictions which are represented on the board of directors of the RTA have approved the RTA Next Plan, wish to have it presented to the voters of the county. The board has considered the recommendations of the advisory committees, which includes, and so I think it's covered in that personally. So, Mr. Ortega, you're anxious to.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, with great minds. So the iteration right before this just took that paragraph out, but that's the only reference in the resolution to the plan.
Oh, is it?
It is. So we just decided it with the help of our legal counsel to leave that in there modified accordingly. So there is no other reference to Exhibit A in the resolution. So I just figured, you know what, let's leave it there. And that's my suggestion at this point, unless you want to put Exhibit A somewhere else.
Well, could you add Exhibit A to the following, to the, yeah.
Yes, I think it could say, whereas the representatives of the jurisdictions which are represented on the board of the directors of the RTA have approved the RTA next plan attached here to as Exhibit A and wish to, et cetera.
That'd be my suggestion. I think it cleans up the resolution and I think the intent is there and recognizes that there's been input by a variety of advisory committees. CAC, TMC.
Mr. Chair, is that in the way of a motion from your?
I didn't make a motion, but I'm just for discussion, I'm happy to make a motion. I have one other comment. I just want to make sure that there's the paragraph that says about the majority of projects and elements included in the plan have been completed. Is that voters? And has completed the majority. I just want to, because there's this list of projects, we have a number of projects that aren't completed. I know that they're, completion means different things. I just want to make sure that that's an accurate statement.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, the basis for that was simply that we have spent more of the program dollars than is left to spend. And so it was basically, if you look at all the program, the entirety of the program and all the projects, not specific to the roadway element, which is I think where we're really focused, has been a lot of attention. But happy to change that. We can take that word out, or that was the basis for that.
Board Member Murphy.
I'm not, the first part, I mean, the shorter, the simpler, the better. I don't really have a lot of skin in that game, other than, it's a shout out to the TMC who did a lot of work. So that may have been where the suggestion came from, but I'm not sure. But the other one is, I think it's good to keep in the majority as long as it's legal. And I think it is, because we've completed more than we haven't. And it helps move the marketing, the branding that we have been very successful for a very long time. And we've been committed to completing RTA 1, but I think that's a good story to start telling within this language that a majority of the success has been there. Thanks.
Board Member Hines and Board Member Jose. Board Member Hines.
So this will be my last beating of the dead horse here, but the TMC did vote unanimously to recommend that we not put this to the voters in March of 2026. So that is something I do remember that they voted on very clearly, which we should all keep in mind. And just as we're doing this whole process and about to refer this to the Board of Supervisors and then on to the voters, which I support actually, I'm just kind of reflecting that, wouldn't it be nice to have this kind of authority delegated to us by the legislature to address homelessness and the housing crisis? Because we're seeing a lot of people come together to do important things for overpasses and bridges and potholes and but not making sure people have like stable housing. So I think this is just an idea for the future. That's it.
That one, Board Member Hines.
Board Member Jose.
Yes, thank you. My comment is that I would concur with the legal counsel and Mr. Ortega about just leaving that language in there. But if the board so chooses that it is not in order, or that it's not in the best interest of a public document, and take it out. But what harm does it do leaving it in there? And so I would think we just leave that language in there, unless it's improper. Thank you.
I think the change is a more accurate statement than the one previous. So I don't have any heartburn over it, but so I'm going to make a motion to approve resolution number 2025-004 as presented.
With the changes?
Yeah, as presented right here.
Oh, that the TMC
Yeah.
mentioned?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, so seconded by Board Member Maxwell. Any more discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just looking at it, there's no / between technical and management, so we'll take that out of the final version.
Okay, thank you.
I apologize.
That's okay.
We wouldn't have noticed.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it, 8-0.
For the record, Merlin Jose, aye.
Thank you, Board Member Jose. And with that, Board, we're going to adjourn this meeting.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, no, we're not.
If I can, I'm sorry.
Hey.
Almost a half.
We don't know what to do with ourselves if we leave early. So what I would like is if you give us about 5 minutes, we'd like to make the changes to the resolution that you all outlined. And then we would like for the chairman to sign with the members looking over the chairman's shoulder so that we can take a picture of that, if you don't mind.
Twist his arm.
If you would give us about 5 minutes and we'll do that. We'll do that.
Got 5 minutes.
Thank you.
I
Appreciate
guess we're going to pause before
Let's
we
just pause
adjourn.
before we adjourn.
Pause
Thank
for
you.
5 minutes.
We'll take a recess. How's that?
Okay,
Thank you.
sounds good.
Thanks.
Recess, 5-minute recess.
Thank you, Matt.
You're an hour.
I recovered. I recovered. Walk out.
Proud of you. Good.
What's your name? What's your name?
Kristen.
Kristen. Signing this.
Yeah.
Are you getting reflection on the back?
Oh, I said.
Meeting's adjourned.